You know, we talk a lot about the giants of classical music Haydn, Beethoven, Mozart. But today, we're digging into the story of a man who was right there with them, a true superstar. And yet, one of those giants, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, had some, let's say, incredibly harsh words for him. He called him a charlatan, a mere mechanic. So, who is this man? His name was Muzio Clementi.
So picture this. It's Vienna, Christmas Eve, 1781. The Holy Roman Emperor himself, Joseph II, is throwing a party for some Russian royalty. And for entertainment, a piano duel. In one corner, you've got the hometown hero, the genius of Vienna, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And in the other corner, the visiting titan from London, Muzio Clementi.
Now, the emperor, ever the diplomat, called the contest a tie. But Mozart, he was way less diplomatic. In a letter to his father, he admitted Clementi had some serious technical chops, but then he dropped this bombshell assessment, an insult that would stick to Clementi for centuries, a mere mechanic. I mean, ouch. And that's really the big question, isn't it? It's an all-time great insult coming from a certified genius, for sure, but does it actually tell the whole story? Or did Mozart, maybe feeling the pressure from a real rival, completely miss what Clementi was all about? Well, as we're about to see, there's a pretty strong case that Clementi was so much more than just a mechanic. In fact, if you look at music history, Clementi has a much more flattering nickname. People call him the father of the piano. And the reason why he earned that title is what's so fascinating. It wasn't just that he could play the thing incredibly well, it's that he understood it in a way nobody else did yet. Okay, so here's the key thing to get. Before Clementi, most keyboard music was written for instruments like the harpsichord. You know, it plucks the strings, it's got one basic volume level. But Clementi was one of the very first composers to write music specifically for this newfangled instrument called the forte piano, an instrument that hit the strings with little hammers, opening up a whole new universe of expression. And this just shows you the huge leap we're talking about. A harpsichord is great, but it can't really go from soft to loud. The forte piano, well, the name says it all. Forte means loud, piano means soft. Suddenly you could have dynamics, and Clementi's music leaned right into this. It was packed with fast runs, huge chords, and these dramatic shifts in volume that were just physically impossible on the old keyboards. He wasn't just playing the piano, he was basically writing its instruction manual. Of course, this kind of skill doesn't just appear out of thin air. Clementi was a child prodigy in Rome, composing major works by the time he was a young teenager. Then, at 14, a wealthy Englishman basically discovered him and took him back to his estate. And for the next 7 years, Clementi lived in almost total isolation, doing nothing but studying and practicing. We're talking 8 hours a day, every day. That's where he built that mechanic-like precision that Mozart noticed. And that technical mastery is so important, because Clementi didn't just hoard it for himself. He shared it. He literally wrote the book on how to play this new instrument. So yeah, maybe Mozart saw a mechanic, but generations of pianists who came after him, they saw a master teacher. His most famous teaching trick sounds so simple it's almost silly. He'd make his students practice with a penny placed on the back of their hand. If that penny fell off, it meant your hand was moving around too much. It was just a brilliant, simple way to force your hands to be perfectly still and controlled. And this was the heart of his whole philosophy. He created what people called the finger school. The whole idea was to make each finger a totally independent little hammer, capable of perfect strength and clarity. All the action came from the fingers, not the wrist, not the arm. It does sound mechanical, right? But it was the exact foundation you needed to play the incredibly difficult music that was just around the corner in the 19th century. He poured every bit of this knowledge into his huge collection of studies called Gradus ad Parnassum. I love the translation, Steps to the Summit. It's a set of 100 exercises and pieces that became the essential training manual for any pianist who wanted to be taken seriously. It was the ultimate guide to building a world-class technique. And, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Just look at who he taught. His list of students is like a who's who of piano royalty. Carl Czerny, who went on to teach the legendary Franz Liszt. John Field, who became a huge influence on Chopin. You see, Clementi created this incredible pedagogical tree that shaped literally the next 100 years of piano playing. Okay, but here's where the story gets really wild. Clementi wasn't just a world-class performer and teacher. He was also an incredibly sharp businessman, a side of him that most people don't know about, but it's totally central to understanding his impact.
The man built a musical empire in London. First, he took over a publishing company so he could control how music got out into the world. Then, he started manufacturing his own line of pianos. And because he knew the instrument inside and out, he made some really important improvements to how they were built. That mechanic insult is starting to sound a little different now, isn't it? He was a mechanic in the best way possible, an inventor, an innovator.
And maybe the biggest power move of his business career was this. In 1807, he went out and struck a deal with none other than Ludwig van Beethoven. He got the exclusive rights to publish all of Beethoven's music in England. Clementi saw the genius in Beethoven early and made a brilliant play to get a piece of it. All right, let's bring it all back. We started with Mozart just dismissing this guy as a technician with no soul. But since then, we've seen a composer who basically defined the piano sound, a teacher who trained an entire generation of masters, and an entrepreneur who built a business empire. So what's the final verdict here? Well, let's start with the opinion of the guy Clementi published, Beethoven. According to his assistant, Beethoven didn't just respect Clementi's music, he loved it. He thought Clementi's sonatas were the absolute pinnacle of writing for the piano, just beautiful and perfectly suited for the instrument. I mean, that's a pretty powerful rebuttal to Mozart, right? And what about the people he taught? His student, Carl Czerny, who became a giant in his own right, put it pretty simply. He called Clementi the foremost pianist of his time. No ifs, ands, or buts. He knew firsthand how innovative and powerful Clementi's approach was. And this influence just ripples through history. Beethoven himself used Clementi's sonatas to teach his own nephew. Even Chopin, who we think of as this great poet of the piano, made his students grind through Clementi's technical exercises. And fast forward to the 20th century, and the great Vladimir Horowitz was rediscovering and championing Clementi's work for a whole new generation. So we have to ask the question again. Was Muzio Clementi just a mere mechanic? Or was that so-called mechanical brilliance, that deep nuts and bolts understanding of the instrument, exactly what was needed to lay the groundwork for everyone who came after? Maybe mechanic wasn't an insult after all. Maybe it was just the perfect accidental description for the man who was truly the architect of modern piano playing.